Hello true believers. Right now I'm pretty much text to speechless. This fourth issue of the new Sentry mini-series has been absolutely amazing. I give the issue 6 out of 5 chili dogs, so make sure to go and buy it right now. There is nothing more to be said. Go and buy the issue right the fuck now. Goodbye. Wait, why are you still here? The review is over. I gave the book 6 out of 5 chili dogs. What else do you want to know? Okay, let me think for a second. One specific thing I can say is that the issue as a whole outperformed the rather lackluster preview by 1 million exploding miles. The third issue didn't feature Sentry and Bob at all, which was something I complained about a lot. This issue however makes up for that big time and then some. Something I've missed for the Sentry quite a lot ever since his original creator Paul Jenkins stopped writing him was Sentry's and Bob's inner dialogue. Jeff Lemire teased that a little bit in the first issue, but brought it back to its full glory in this issue. The inner dialogue does so much for a character like the Sentry, whose thoughts matter. Sentry as a character has too much complexity to have little to no dialogue during anything he does. Bob waiting in a line to buy a hamburger and Coke should be accompanied by a melancholic inner dialogue. Jeff Lemire understands that, and it shows in his writing of the character. Jeff's Sentry is the classic Sentry, the thoughtful, yet troubled guy who wants to do good, but is his own worst enemy. However, at the same time Jeff pushes another aspect of the Sentry, an aspect Paul Jenkins didn't focus on as much. That aspect is a very specific type of action. And in my own personal opinion, that is a perfect mix for the Sentry. On the one hand you have deep and meaningful stories about the fragility of the human mind, and on the other hand you have moments of high-paced Dragon Ball style action, powering up, screaming, and ultimately cool transformations. Ah, fucking hell. I just got lost in thoughts while writing this, and missed my station. Now I have to wait 10 minutes for the next train to drive back. Fuck you Marvel, for publishing this absolutely stunning comic. Anyway, as you can probably guess it, I'm a big fan of the story and the characterization in this issue. The same is the case for the art. I have complained about one hastily drawn page in my preview video, but the rest of the art in the book is absolutely mind-blowing. It is dynamic and full of detail. Usually artists carefully pick key pages in which they invest the most hours, but in this issue there are very little pages which have been given less care than the others. Kim Jacinto and Joshua Cassara are quickly becoming some of my favorite artists. They are visibly getting better with each comic they draw. I also can't praise the coloring by Rain Barreto enough. Up until now the scenes in the real world have been colored with desaturated colors to make the world seem more mundane and bland than the alternate reality in Bob's mind. And that worked very well. But now, with most of the action taking place in the real world, that art coloring separation has been dropped. And rightfully so. The coloring in the entire book is spot on and makes the art pop straight out of the pages. I said it once, and I'm going to say it again. That is simply damn good coloring. Before we come to an end, let us quickly talk about the sales for the third issue of the book. The third issue sold slightly more copies than the second issue, which is not very common in this day and age. Usually comics sell less and less, unless there is a catch. In the best case scenario that catch comes from positive reviews and a good word of mouth. And that could certainly apply to the Sentry book. The reviews have been extremely positive so far, and from all the chatter online I can tell that people really like the book. Rightfully so. In such a case books start selling more and more. But sometimes books also sell more when another major character makes an appearance. And in the third issue we were promised an appearance by Iron Man. Iron Man could have potentially spiked the sales of the book. If that was the case, then the danger is there that with the misleading cover and solicitations of the third issue, some people have been put off and won't be returning for the fourth issue, which would really be a pity, considering how great the fourth issue was, and because it also featured Iron Man, who had some great moments in the book. But if the third issue sold more because readers realized how much of a high quality book the Sentry is, then that should be a clear message to Marvel. People are willing to spend money on the book. What you also have to keep in mind is that the Sentry has been in character limbo for the past 5 years, prior to his brief return in Doctor Strange issue number 382. Marvel also hasn't really marketed his return that much. He simply returned and got his, then ongoing, but now mini-series. At the same time, the first issue of his book sold as much as the West Coast Avengers, a book that features a bunch of characters who have been prominent in the last few years and have been heavily marketed by Marvel. Characters who are getting their own animated cartoon. And Sentry sold as much. That's rather impressive, if you ask me. Now obviously, the Sentry will never sell as much as A-listers like Batman, Spider-Man, the X-Men and even Superman to a lesser extent, but there still seems to be a decently sized demographic for the Sentry. But, I believe that the sales for the 4th issue will clear up these theories for good. If the 4th issue sells as much, or even more than the 3rd issue, then that will be an absolutely amazing achievement. And in case you are wondering why, because right now the chance is high that the 4th issue bombs big time. Iron Man being announced for the 3rd issue, yet not even making an appearance, was a problem. You can't lie to customers and expect them to return. Also, since the release of the 3rd issue, the book has been reduced to a mini-series, and the trade paperback has been announced for January 2019. Now some people might skip the 4th and the 5th issue and buy the whole trade paperback in January. So I will be pleasantly surprised if these 2 points don't hurt the sales of the 4th issue. We will just have to wait and see. Until then, have a nice day, and as always, stay vigilant.